Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Packers Unscripted from Packers.com. I am Mike Spofford, joined, as always, by my partner in everything Packers, Wes Hodkiewicz, coming to you here from our studios at Lambeau Field to discuss, unfortunately, a 16-13 Green Bay loss at the hands of the Carolina Panthers. I will start by saying I apologize for the late posting of our normal Tuesday show. Just some issues with the scheduling in the studio, with the Monday night game coming up. Things are all kind of out of whack this week already. But here we are. We are getting the show done. A tough one, Wes, but even tougher than the loss. The loss of tight end Tucker Kraft for the rest of the season. Unfortunately, a knee injury in the third quarter. Kraft is out for the season, and that is going to be a big adjustment for the Green Bay Packers offense to make the rest of the way.
Yeah, this is the one that sucks.
Yep.
Because obviously the Packers have Super Bowl aspirations. They have goals to play well into January and February. And certainly number 85 has a big thing to do about that. But I remember a very cold, blistery day in April where you and I were standing outside on the west side of Lambeau Field. I know my directions. And the Packers tailgate tour was getting ready to take off. And Tucker Kraft was one of the, along with Lucas Van Ness, were the modern era current players that were participating on that. And Tucker talked about a bevy of things, including him and his lovely wife were expecting the birth of a child that was born later in July.
Yeah.
He was talking about the work that he put in at Lambeau Field. He stayed here year-round and was preparing himself for his third NFL season. And just the expectations that he was putting on himself to step up as a leader, to step up as a player, and all those things came true. This guy was a surefire Pro Bowler, in my opinion. It was cool seeing him start to get the national notoriety after that win over the Steelers.
Yep.
And everybody was starting to kind of jump on the Tucker Kraft train, and now it comes to a screeching halt. Like Matt LaFleur said at his press conference on Monday, Tucker's handling this as we would all expect him to, as well as someone possibly could given the circumstances. But it just stinks that a guy that was really taking this thing over and becoming one of the more noteworthy tight ends in the league, that gets put on ice here for a minute. So, yeah, you take away the football team, you take away the wins and the losses, the business side of this thing, your heart just hurts for a guy that put his soul into making sure that this was the best season it could possibly be, and now it's something out of his control that takes him out of it. Yeah,
it's the cruelest part of this business. There's no doubt about it. I mean, these are the kinds of things that they're worse than a tough last second loss. They're worse than anything else that goes on. Win or loss wise on a football field is when a guy, as you said, he's put everything into it. He was becoming everything that he had set out to be for himself, and quite frankly, probably exceeding the expectations that anybody else could have had for him, quite frankly, because he set a standard so high for himself just in his third year in the NFL to become that kind of player. And it just so happens the very next game after his career best game to this point, and this happens. The Packers are going to have to adjust, obviously. We'll talk more about it in our upcoming shows. Luke Musgrave, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, the weapons. Hopefully Jaden Reed is back at some point. The Packers offense will adjust. Will adjust and move forward. But this is a big loss, and you just wonder. I'm always going to wonder, regardless of what Tucker Kraft does in 2026 and 2027 and beyond, I'm always going to wonder just where this 2025 season was going to go for Tucker Kraft, because I had written it over the weekend leading up to the game. He was on pace to basically rewrite Packers record books for a single season as far as what a tight end had accomplished on the field for the Packers. And And yeah, now it's all gone for him for the time being.
Worst part of it, it almost reminds me a little bit of what happened to Bobby Tunyon back in 2020, when it's like this guy is at the beginning of this thing and looks like he's about to take off.
Yeah.
And he gets robbed of it, with a knee injury like this, an ACL that takes you out for a year. What I love about Tucker's story is he, unfortunately, just literally the day after the game, turned 25.
Yeah.
He's a young buck, and I think there's going to be a lot of special seasons ahead for him. But to play as well as he did and to have such a hand in this 5-2-1 start for Green Bay and the victories that they've had, 2 100-yard games, his first 200-yard games of his career this season, and to get that robbed from him, it just, again, your heart hurts. But from the Packers' perspective, if you want to look at it from the X's and O's standpoint, people need to step up. And you got Christian Watson back now. It sounds like Jaden Reed is getting healthier. Hopefully get him back here at some point this season, although it doesn't sound like he'll be practicing quite yet. Luke Musgrave ended up having 3 big catches for 34 yards on the Packers' last scoring drive. They're going to need him to take on a bigger role now. John Fitzpatrick, as far as the inline tight end stuff. A lot of guys are going to be counted on here, and somewhere down the road, you hope that what Tucker Kraft started this year is just the beginning of something much more special to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when it comes to this loss, 16-13 was the final. Carolina wins it on a 49-yard walk-off field goal, and there are a lot of reasons the Packers lost this game, but the one you have to put at the top of the list is the fact that the first 4 times the Packers were in the red zone in this game, they failed to score a touchdown, and not only didn't get a touchdown in those first 4 trips into the red zone, ending up 1 of 5 overall when they finally did get a touchdown on their last red zone trip, but in going 0 for 4 up until the last couple minutes of the game, they only scored 6 points.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a matter of, they kicked 4 field goals and had 12 points on the board, because that probably would have been enough to win this game.
Yeah.
But whether you're talking a fumble, penalties that pushed them back and forced them to kick field goals. There was a 4th and 8 decision by Matt LaFleur. They didn't get any points on that drive. Outside the red zone, there was a missed field goal. I mean, the list of missed opportunities in this game is as long as it gets, and we don't need to necessarily rehash all of them. But where the Packers go from here, quite frankly, they don't have any. They get 1 extra day to deal with this one, because the next game is Monday Night Football. But that next game is against the defending champs and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Packers have got to right the ship, and they've got to do it in a hurry here, because they've got a big time game coming up.
Yeah, and it's weird. I've said this to a number of people now this week in the aftermath of this loss. I actually have no qualms, no issues whatsoever about the Packers' ability to bounce back. They've done a good job of it. They've been a resilient team, and they can play to every level. The problem is that this was a game, again, where the Green Bay Packers were a decided favorite over the Carolina Panthers. And I think if you look on scale, everybody would agree the Packers are a much more talented football team on both sides of the ball. I think probably the most frustrating part of this is that a lot of the markers, you don't have to be a head coach in this league. You don't have to be Matt LaFleur or Brian Gutekunst. Everybody knew going into this thing, including this dullard, what had to happen in this game. Green Bay had to run the ball better than the Carolina Panthers. They needed to stop Rico Dowdle, which a lot of teams have struggled to do, but they needed to do that.
Yep.
They needed to put this game in Bryce Young's hands, and offensively, they needed to establish Josh Jacobs. We saw glimpses of that. This was actually Josh's second best rushing performance this season as far as statistics are concerned. But when you give up 130 rushing yards to Dowdle, both of their touchdowns came through Dowdle. They rushed for almost 170 yards in this game. That's not going to cut it. Not when you're the number 3 ranked rush defense going in.
Right.
In addition to the fact, as you laid out with these red zone woes, the Packers had 7 possessions, never punted. They had almost 200 yards through those first 3 possessions and just 3 points to show for it. Situationally, Green Bay fell short, and unfortunately for them, it led to their first loss at Lambeau Field this season.
Yeah, that's what this game really came down to, was situational football, because the Packers had, as you mentioned, they only had 7 possessions in the game. One of the only short possession that they had was, unfortunately, when an ill-advised deep shot down the field on first down was intercepted. Triple coverage. It was a bad call, a bad decision, all of that. But the other 6 drives, the Packers, the other 6 drives were all between 9 and 13 plays in length. The Packers were moving the ball. But what it came down to is essentially the Packers were the Panthers, this is going to come out the wrong way, but the Panthers in some respects were letting them move the football because they were sitting back. They were, playing too high safety, and not just too high safety, but zone coverage behind that, which means the cornerbacks are off the line of scrimmage. They're keeping everything in front of them. They're giving the short stuff. And then what they're planning on doing is then when the opposing offense gets in the red zone and the field shrinks and it cranks up the level of precision you need to operate on offense because the field is smaller, they're counting on the Packers to make a mistake. And essentially that's exactly how the game played out, because the Packers did not have the consistency and the discipline, whether you're talking about a fumble or a penalty or a sack or whatever the case might be. The Packers didn't have the consistency and the discipline to avoid that mistake that was going to keep them out of the end zone. And when that happens time and time again, you're giving the other team no reason to change their plan, no reason to play any differently. And so then when you don't break through and get that touchdown until there's just 2.5 minutes on the clock, which is the touchdown that tied the game, the Panthers defensively were able to play exactly the way they wanted to play for the entire game. They never had to change what they wanted to do. And then they got the ball. They got the ball last. Their running back, who rushed for 130 yards, he broke off the big run from midfield to the 31, a 19-yard run that took them into field goal range in the final minute of the game. They drained the clock and kicked the field goal, and they got on the airplane back to Charlotte with a victory that in a game the Packers, honestly, Wes, had no business losing.
Yeah.
It's not a game that the Packers should have lost, but because they were forced to play a way that they didn't want to play and they couldn't execute in that way to beat a lesser team, you come out on the short end of it.
Yeah, you summed it up, and it was a lot of the same sentiments that were shared in the locker room afterwards. Micah Parsons almost said exactly what you said, word for word. I mean, Bryce Young threw for 102 passing yards in this with an interception on a very bad ball that Xavier McKinney picked off in the back of the end zone.
Bryce Young had only 2 road wins as a starting quarterback in his career before Sunday, and the Packers did not put the game in his hands. Yeah. And I say that, yes, the run defense was a problem, but not putting the game in Bryce Young's hands was the fault of the run defense as well as the Packers offense not scoring the points they needed to score to make Bryce Young have to throw the ball to beat them. And a guy with only 2 road wins as a starting quarterback came in and got his 3rd, and he didn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, and so there were some people I saw online that were trying to make a lot of Micah Parsons' comments afterwards, saying that was an indictment on Young. It really wasn't. It was more an indictment on the Packers, and that they're going up against a young quarterback that has thrown the ball to the opposing team a fair share of times during his career when it's been in his plate. And Rico Dowdle has turned out to be the perfect complementary piece to them because Young is gaining experience, and there's a relationship there that you can tell that they have a very clear identity of what they want to be now. Mm-hmm. And I said this to Darren Gant, a buddy of mine who covers the Panthers for their website, do exactly what we do. And I said they are a fun and frisky football team, and they play to what they are, and that is run the ball, stop the run. And that's what they accomplished in this game, in addition to being able to, play that way for 4 quarters, I think is probably the most surprising thing, just based on the way that the game tilted. That being said, for Green Bay's standpoint, because Young wasn't dropping back that much, only had 2 quarterback hits. One of them was the strip sack that they ended up recovering, and then a few plays later, McKinney gets the interception, and the other was just I think a blitz from Quay Walker. So it was tough to get home against this guy, and it was tough to corral this running back. The hardest part to swallow, and I know a lot will be made about the 4th and 8 decision. Matt LaFleur took ownership for it. It's been bantied about already quite a bit this week.
Yeah.
But for me, it really does go back to that 19-yard run at midfield. It was a great look. I thought the disguise was excellent on it. But the problem is that it's 2nd and 10. You've already had a hard time staying in front of Dowdle all game. I don't know what the big fear was there of Young pulling it and throwing it. And it seemed like Green Bay was really kind of prepared for that. And then when the draw came, they just got completely caught off guard.
Yeah, and I mean, credit the Panthers. They called the right play at the right time. I think the Packers defense was in that moment was a little bit on its heels because Young had hit a couple of throws to McMillan. To move the chains, the underneath stuff. And it was clear that Carolina was going to drain the clock on that possession, and it was a question of would they get close enough. And even when they got to the 31-yard line, they weren't even able to get any closer, and quite frankly weren't even trying. They were like, okay, it's 49 yards. We're not going to take any risk here whatsoever, and they're going to send out the kicker. And he was able to make the kick to win the game. It's tough because Dowdle had, I believe it was 4, I guess what you would classify as explosive runs.
Yep.
In the game, which gave him a hefty average. It just seemed like every time Dowdle did get an explosive run, that's what led to points. For the Panthers. So here's my question to you though. As the Packers now try to figure this out, coming off of this performance, in the wake of the Tucker Kraft injury and everything like that, are the Packers going to be able to win a game like this in the future, like down the road? And what I mean in a game like this is, are they going to be able to win a game, figure out how to win a game when they're not able to play the way they want to play? Because I think that right now is kind of what's lingering out there, is that the Cardinals sat back defensively. I would say the Steelers, though not as much, because the Steelers definitely blitzed Jordan Love plenty in that game. But we saw the Cardinals sit back defensively. We've seen the Panthers sit back defensively. And the Cardinals were able to do the job for the first half, and then the Packers kind of got going in the second half. The Panthers, as I said, were never had to come out of what they were doing. And when this Packers offense gets into an uncomfortable spot in terms of not being able to play the way they want to play, are they going to be able to find ways to win in doing that? I think they're going to be in this position again, and the growth of this team is going to depend on whether they can figure that out.
Well, and it's just understanding the situation too. And the hardest part about this, and you've talked about this in Inbox quite a bit already, probably more than I have, is that it's not like every single drive it was the same issue.
Right.
It was different things that plagued them at different times. They moved the ball very well early on, and Savion Williams has a fumble that they lose and the drive ends. There's other instances like the 4th and 8, the play before that, where they're trying that screen and ends up going for a loss of 5. There's times where the situation where Jordan Love has to kind of scan the field and understand where things are, like the interception that he went downfield with. I feel like all the firepower Green Bay needs is within this offense. I feel like there are those outlets even without Kraft. We've seen it with Dobbs. We've seen it at times with Matthew Golden, who it sounds like is all right with the shoulder. And now having Christian Watson back is going to be huge for them, I feel like, especially in that regard. But it's being able to consistently do that week after week after week. And Xavier McKinney, as always, was extremely eloquent after the game when talking about, this performance and what happened against Carolina wasn't necessarily a huge surprise because they'd been kind of playing with fire already in some of those close wins, including the matchup against Arizona. But they found a way to win in the end. Either way, Mike, I actually don't think we're probably going to get that answer on Monday Night Football yet. They could win that big. They could lose that big.
It's not going to happen. We're not going to see it necessarily right away, but there's still, there's 9 regular season games left here.
But that game against New York is the one I'm looking at. because that's the one where, regardless of what happens with the Giants next weekend, the Packers will again be decided favorites, regardless of the outcome against the Eagles.
Yeah, it's a good
They are
point.
going to go into MetLife as a significant favorite. And I'm not even saying you got to win 35-7 or anything crazy like that. But how do you play that opponent is going to be very critical, I think. These next two games, we're going to learn a lot about this football team, because now the gimmies are over. Not even gimmies, but the mulligans are over. You had that performance against the Browns. It reflects in your record. You had that performance against the Panthers. It reflects on your record. Now the Packers are getting into the real crux of their season. The NFC North games are waiting, and they are all going to be doozies. Have you learned from what has happened? Have you been able to make the corrections to ultimately not have those self-inflicted wounds when there is no mulligan to be had?
Yeah, and I like the way you put that, because I believe this Packers team is going to bounce back, and I believe we are going to see a much, much better performance on Monday night at Lambeau Field against the Philadelphia Eagles. It will be light years better than what we saw against the Carolina Panthers. But as we all know, the Packers can play light years better than they did against the Panthers, and the Eagles still could be just good enough to come in here and beat Green Bay, right? That's the difference. So we'll see what happens. I think the Packers are going to bounce back and play a good game, win or lose, against the Eagles on Monday night. The question is, as you just said, when that happens, does that bounce back performance become something that they build on moving forward?
Yeah.
Or does it just become another part of this whole up and down, roller coaster type thing that we've seen? That's ultimately, over the long haul, what's going to define this season and where it's headed. We're going to get a taste of it. We're going to get a taste of it Monday night, but then it's going to be in the coming weeks after that, because the easiest time to bounce back and set a new standard is when you played your worst game.
Yep.
Which is what the Packers just did. They played their worst game of the season on Sunday against Carolina. But then, assuming that happens, which I believe it will, then what happens after that? So
it's not always about the wins or the losses, not to jump over you there, but it is. I mean, you go back to 2016, Packers got it handed to them by Washington, but yet it still felt, after that game with Jared Cook coming back, it just kind of felt like things were changing. And then the next week they came and had a really virtuoso performance against, coincidentally, the Philadelphia Eagles, and that started the whole run the table thing.
Yeah.
And it's not even just saying you got to win 8 games in a row or anything crazy like that. My point is that you need to have it where you have that rock, that foundation, that solidarity, that we now have the confidence that we're going to go out there and it's not just rolling the dice, that we're going to go out there and impose our will and we're going to play our brand of football. That's where the Packers are still. This particular team is trying to get.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we will pay some bills here quickly with a word from our sponsors. SiriusXM NFL Radio delivers hard-hitting analysis and up-to-the-minute NFL news that true football fanatics need 24/7, 365. At Cousin Subs, we have something for everyone, like our Wisconsin cheese curds, mac and cheese, golden fries, and creamy shakes, all paired with your favorite sub or sub in a bowl. Cousin Subs, 50-plus years of better. Pit Boss Grills, the official grill of Packers tailgating at Lambeau or at your house. Take your game day to the next level with a Pit Boss wood pellet grill. Pit Boss Grills available at Menards. Hey Packers fans, we always knew Lambeau Field was a wonder, but now it's official. Learn more about all the wonders of Wisconsin at travelwisconsin.com/wonders. Welcome back to Packers Unscripted. Wes, it's time to look again around the division, around the conference. Packers at 5-2-1 in the NFC North. That is still good enough for the top spot for the time being. The Detroit Lions and Chicago Bears are both 5-3. And the Minnesota Vikings, by virtue of a big road victory over the Lions, Minnesota is at 4-4. So once again, we are back at the stage in the NFC North where no one is below 500. Yeah. And it becomes anyone's division again. And then when you look around at the rest of the conference, Philadelphia, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers are all 6-2. San Francisco is 6-3. Carolina is 5-4. Those are two teams that have not had their bye week yet, so they have 9 games under their belt. But when you add it all up, there are 9 teams in the NFC right now with either 5 or 6 victories. I mean, there's still a long way to go. Roughly half the season, however you want to look at it. But man, oh man, it's there's still so much out in front of everybody, right? And yes, at the end of the day, as I said in Monday's Insider Inbox, this loss to Carolina was a massive missed opportunity for the Packers on a weekend when the Detroit Lions got beat.
Yeah.
So it was a massive missed opportunity, but you have to forget all of it, put it all aside, because there are 9 games to go here, and both the race in the NFC North and the NFC in general is as tight as it gets.
Yeah, and my biggest point is, Mike, you and I have both had to answer our own fair share of Insider Inbox questions already this week, and my message to Packer fans right now is to chill out. Some Packer fans need to chill out. You talk about being on a roller coaster, and that's fine. Yeah, up and down, it happens. Packers are 5-2-1 still at the end of the day. If you want to see what a bad football team is like, there's plenty of examples out there for you to find them. Packer fans got to get some balance here, bro, because we are 1 week removed from Jordan Love is the greatest quarterback ever, and the Packers are the best team ever, and they're going to win the Super Bowl, and they're going to win every game the rest of the season, and we didn't need Aaron Rodgers, to all the garbage that's sifted into my inbox, and I've had to read for the last 36 hours. You want to see what's going around the league? Look at what happened with the Detroit Lions on Sunday. It's not that they lost to Minnesota. It's that they've had a completely Jekyll and Hyde running game that at times looks dominant and at times gets no traction. J.J. McCarthy threw for 143 passing yards in that game. Justin Jefferson didn't even hurt them. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason did.
Yeah.
Mistakes did. It is tough week in and week out to just run through everybody. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. Do the Packers got to do better? Yes, because exactly what you just said. It is an extremely tight NFC race from the top to who potentially could be that number 7 seed.
Yeah.
But my goodness, man, every single time the Packers lose or there's a setback or there's an interception or you're not happy with the throw or the play call, people just completely losing their minds on social media. You may not realize this, but I remember everything. I see all those things, and I don't just start on to the next game and forget about it. We have to move forward, and it's not just one game. The Packers have already played 8 games. If you take that approach every single week, win, lose, or in one case tie, there's nothing to be able to grab onto anymore. Disappointment is fine. There's nothing wrong with disappointment. I get it. I was a Brewers fan growing up. I understand disappointment, my friends. But the Packers could easily win this game against the Eagles. And the only thing that matters then is how they play against the Giants.
Right. And that's the thing now where yes, the opportunity was lost against the Panthers. It's extremely frustrating, especially in a home game, to see the team perform like that. And I'm not discounting that. But in this marathon of an NFL season, it's all about how you respond. You have to respond in games, and you have to respond after games on a week-to-week basis in this league. I mean, the Detroit Lions right now are talking about how in the world did we turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, whatever it was, playing at home against a division rival. You can't do that and win, right? The Indianapolis Colts, who were riding on top of the world, they went into Pittsburgh, where the Packers went in prime time and got a victory in a high stakes and ultra hyped game and whatnot. The Indianapolis Colts took their 7-1 record into Pittsburgh and started turning the football over. Yeah. They started making mistakes. I mean, and whether you're talking turnovers or penalties or missed blocks or whatever the case might be, it's what makes winning consistently in this league so difficult to do. So now, and it puts you in different spots over the course of a season, right? I mean, the spot the Packers are in now is okay. It's recovery mode, it's bounce back mode, and get back to being who you are, but then also know the lesson that has to be learned from the Carolina game is that if you get into a game where you're not able to play the way you want to play, you still got to find a way to win it. And that's what they didn't do. So if they can learn that lesson, and whether it's against the Giants or the Ravens toward the end of the year, or when they go out to Denver to play the Broncos, if they get into a game where they're not able to play the way they want to play, but you're sitting there in a one-score game in the fourth quarter, it's like figure it out and find a way to win it, and then you can work on all the other stuff later. That's the opportunity that got away from them against the Panthers, and hopefully that's the lesson learned, that the next opportunity they can figure it out, and then they're not sitting here taking another tally mark in the loss column.
Just to bring you through this really quickly, you had the Arizona Cardinals dispatch the Dallas Cowboys 27-17. Questions now on whether or not Jacoby Brissett should be the starting quarterback there moving forward.
I said that after the Packers played.
Yeah.
After that, I thought what Jacoby Brissett did in those back-to-back games, the one before playing the Packers and then how he looked playing against the Packers, I thought, it looks like Arizona's got a better quarterback in their backup than they do in their starter. But that's me.
The Buffalo Bills defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 28-21. The Chiefs now at 4 losses, 5-4 on the season. You look over and the Bears game against the Bengals, when you talk about fine lines, the fact that the Bears gave up a ton of production to Joe Flacco, that entire offense, but found a way to win because of the issues that Cincinnati's defense is having. First time, I think, since 1966, an offense has scored over 35 or 40 points in back-to-back weeks and lost both of those games. This is the plight of the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons played the 7-2 New England Patriots really tough. Michael Penix played well. Drake London played well. It didn't matter. They still lost. You were saying earlier today, one of our conversations you and I were having, especially in the modern day with the expanded playoff formats, it's about playing well at the end of the season. Right now is about gathering as many victories as you can.
Yeah.
And for the Packers, they needed that one. That would have got them to 6 wins. You had to edit inbox on Saturday. I wrote in there, that's the only goal, is to get that 6th win, and the conduit for that was going to be the Carolina Panthers. That is out of the question now. Now it's, can you get it against the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah.
Win after win after win brings you to the dance, and then you hope that you have your best team at that time. And we have a long, long way to go.
Yeah.
Until we get there.
Where I see the Packers at right now is they have a lot of stuff to figure out. There's a lot of time still to do that. But now the added challenge has been thrown in of doing that without one of your best offensive players in Tucker Kraft. So
just the biggest thing to come out of last weekend, win or lose.
The task got harder. The task is obvious, but the task now also got harder. So how are they going to respond to it? And we will talk more about that and about the Eagles, the 6-2 Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, coming to Lambeau Field on our next show in a couple of days. But for now, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of Packers Unscripted. Be sure to continue following all of our coverage of the team on Packers.com. For Wes, I'm Mike. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next time.